get your latest business news with Devin Morgan. Devin, thanks for joining us once more. So you're going to be talking to the Telkom CEO, and they are, like many of us, battling with the impact of these power cuts.
Yes, you're quite right. One of many companies we've been looking at this week who's impacted by those power cuts. I mean, Telkom also saying high inflation and interest rates as well. Growing unemployment had a significant impact on its earnings. Its profits halving in the 6 months to end of September. Now, its fixed line business continues to take a knock as customers migrate to new technologies such as fibre and LTE. But it says higher mobile handset, IT hardware, software sales partly offsetting the impact. Telkom says higher costs, as you said, related to power cuts also ate into its bottom line. Yeah, so as we said, those profits have halved and we saw a drop in a couple of sections or areas in Telkom. I want to bring in Telkom's Group CEO, Serame Taukobong, on where the company is going. Serame, thanks very much for talking to us. Some gains here and there with the mobile subscribers up, but overall it's been a draining 6 months, hasn't it? What's some of the biggest drawbacks which hit the profit so hard?
Good evening, Devin, and good evening to your viewers. I think, we have to look at the shape of the business in totality. You're absolutely right. We've seen positive gains in the mobile business. I think what's also quite interesting is we do see the continued and intended decline in our legacy business, which obviously carries a higher margin as we move our customers to next generation platform. I think key to this as well has been the high cost of doing business. We've seen diesel costs increase by 154% in this reported period. And we're doing a lot to try and make sure that we have less reliance on diesel and looking at alternative forms of power to make sure that we keep our network going and deliver value to our customers.
Yeah, I want to talk about that a little later. So, I mean, when you look at all of that, what is the strategy here for Telkom, I mean, going forward? Is it pushing ahead with the IT services for businesses, for example, perhaps capitalizing on your mobile subscriber base? What's the direction looking like for you?
Overall, for us, really, it's our continued path to make sure that we lead in broadband. So, as you rightly said, in mobile, if you look at the shape of our mobile subscribers, over 60% are what we call smart users. So I think that's yielding results. And we're seeing the growth in data revenue, mobile commanding over 550 petabytes of data.
Increasing power cuts causes many of Telkom's own towers to go offline. Supposedly, that pushes more subscribers to your roaming partners. And that isn't a pretty picture, is it?
Well, I think that's what certainly we've been doing with our CapEx investment in mobile to make sure we do two things. One, we delineate the impact of roaming, especially with load shedding. As we've seen in the past years, since we started our first roaming agreement, roaming as a cost of revenue was 19%. It's now sitting at 9%. We'll continue to invest in that to make sure that we de-risk ourselves from the impact of load shedding, especially on roaming.
Have you also been hit with theft of infrastructure? Because you speak to the other mobile companies and they bemoan that. What's your experience in that regard as far as theft of infrastructure is concerned?
It's definitely the same as our peers. Battery theft is quite a significant impact of us, as well as copper theft. So we are seeing infrastructure damage also increasing in this reporting period.
Serame, MTN terminating discussions about an MTN-led proposal to buy Telkom. Then we've seen Telkom saying it was entertaining an offer from smaller rival Rain. What's the feeling inside Telkom's boardroom if MTN comes back to you?
Well, I think this is not the first of such conversations that have happened between Telkom and MTN. And I think as the market changes and dynamics go towards consolidation, it certainly is not something that we will frown upon. We do have very good relationships with MTN. We currently have a roaming agreement with them. And in fact, MTN is OpenServe, our fiber provider's second biggest customer. So I think these conversations will go on. If you look at, for example, the Sprint T-Mobile merger in the US, it took 3 or 4 attempts for it to come through.
Just one push on that very quickly. I mean, MTN saying a couple of weeks ago it backed out because of an exclusivity reason. Now, can you tell us a little bit more about that? What did they mean by that?
Well, I think we didn't see range certainly as a competing proposition to what MTN was suggesting. We entered in these conversations on a non-exclusive basis. At the point in time where MTN actually left, we didn't have an offer from Rain. It was a proposition. And I think it was just the semantics around that.
Now, Sello Moloko calling it quits from the Telkom board today. Does that mean anything to the executive?
I think, listen, Sello has been an extremely important part of our ecosystem. But as a board, we've been gearing up ourselves for this reality. We have increased our board by 5 members. In fact, in all these conversations, we've had to even institute an independent board, which comprised of existing heads of risk and audit and our ITC. So we've built capacity around the board to make sure that we have a smooth transition with Sello moving on to a brighter future.
All right, we'll leave it there. Well, thanks very much indeed, Telkom CEO Serame Taukobong. Thanks indeed for talking to us.